Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So really fast disclaimer, if you hear any grunting or squeaks, that is little Miss Rory. She is awake right now, but I'm trying to film. She's calm, so figured I would take this time to sit down in front of the camera and try and film my birth story and maybe pre-film a couple other videos just because it has been crazy and very hard to film. So, which leads me to my second disclaimer. I am so sorry for not filming until now. It will all be explained in my breastfeeding journey, but it has been insane. And I mean, if any of you have kids, I'm sure you understand, especially if you're trying to do YouTube and deal with new babies or even older kids. It is so hard, and I knew it would be, but I also thought that I would be able to find time to do it, especially if when John is off, which is only once a week. But no, that's not the case. So again, I apologize, but I'm here today and I want to film my my birth story because I am 1 month postpartum, so I figured it was time to get this filmed and edited and uploaded for you guys, just because I loved watching these. Especially, I didn't really watch them until I got pregnant, but I really liked watching them at the end of my pregnancy. I really liked vlogs of like the actual delivery, and I plan on doing that, and I mentioned this in my announcement that she had been born, or I put in my little disclaimer box. I didn't have time, and you'll know why when I tell you my birth story. So if you want to hear my birth story and my entire experience, then keep on watching. Okay, first off, if you see me looking down, I am either looking at my phone with my notes, or I am looking at my birth story that was typed up from my doula. It's a complimentary thing that the doula services that I use does. They take notes during your delivery and type up everything, just because it's very common to forget what happened, and you're just in the moment, and once you have your baby there's so much adrenaline and you just kind of forget everything. So they type that up for me, so I will be looking between both to make sure I'm not forgetting anything, and if I look over there, I am making sure that she's okay. So first off, let me just say I had a crazy fast delivery. This is my first baby, and I was early, not like before full term. I was technically still full term. I had her at 38 weeks in like a couple of days, but I was still early. I didn't go to my due date. I didn't go over, which is a pretty common thing to do, especially for your first baby. And your first baby is typically the longest labor, unless there's complications with future pregnancies, or pregnancies and deliveries. So let me just start that off. So it was on a Wednesday. John and I were hanging out in our living room. I was sitting on my birthing ball and just bouncing. I had bouncing about. We were watching TV or a movie or something, or a basketball game. I'm not entirely sure. And I got up to go get my computer because I was going to edit a video for you guys, and I kind of felt a gush. And I had mentioned in my most previous pregnancy update, maybe one before that too, I'm not entirely sure, that I had kept thinking my water had broken. And some people have gushes, some people have trickling, some people don't have their water break at all, and it has to be broken for them. And so I was super hesitant to get excited because it happened like 3 times before that I thought my water had possibly broken. So I was like, John, I think that was my water. And he was like, okay. And he also did not want to get too excited. He was like, probably not. Go to the bathroom, put on a new pad, and we'll keep an eye on it. So I went to the bathroom, put on a pad, got up, it happened again. And I was like, no, actually, scratch that. No. See, I told you, I forget things. I went to the bathroom and I was like, there's no way my underwear or my pad isn't wet. And my pad wasn't wet. It didn't look wet at all. And I was like, oh, dang it. I got up, pulled my underwear up, and I felt wet on my butt. And I pulled my underwear back down, and the back of my underwear was entirely soaked. And so it completely missed the pad, of course, my luck. And I was like, John, I think this is it. And I didn't want to get too excited, so I kind of did the thing where you lay down for a few minutes, get up. I didn't even have to lay down for a couple of minutes before I got up, and it did again. And then I was sitting on my birthing ball, and I had John get me a towel so I could kind of keep track. I did that, and it kept happening, and it was dripping from me, like gushing. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. So I called my doula line. They have a labor line to call when you are in labor so they can keep track, and then they end up coming into your house. I called and told the doula on call that my water had broken, and she said, okay, well, you need to go to the hospital. You don't have to rush, but you definitely need to go just because they are worried about infection once your water breaks. And so she said, if you haven't showered, take a shower maybe. If you haven't eaten, try and eat dinner, even though it was like 9:45, I think. Maybe 9:30. Between 9:30 and 9:45 for sure. She was like, if you haven't done that, or she's like, eat if you can, try and like do your nighttime routine, brush your teeth, wash your face, all that stuff, and then make sure you have last minute stuff in your hospital bags, and then head to the hospital. And I said, okay. I had already had dinner, already gotten ready for bed, already showered and everything. And so I just sat on the ball. John got last minute stuff in our hospital bags, like deodorant, toothbrushes, stuff like that. Then the contractions really started coming. And mind you, I wasn't having contractions before my water broke at all. Like if I was, I didn't know. They weren't consistent. They weren't painful at all. And so I had no idea. It literally was out of the blue. It was kind of like the movies, like, oh, I think my water broke, and then you start having contractions like 5 minutes later. It got very painful very quickly. I called the OB labor line to let them know that I was heading to the hospital. My doctor that I used was not on call, so which is fine. There was like 1 in 7 chance that your doctor would actually be the one to deliver you. And so John's getting stuff ready. We're leaving. We leave the place a mess. Like I have the towel and the birthing ball still. My wet underwear is on the ground. So gross, I know. We did not have time. We're in the car and I'm having a hard time. I'm praying through it, listening to Christian music. Again, I am religious. If you're not, just fast forward this part, I guess. And so we're on the way to the hospital. I'm praying in the car. John's praying with me. And it's, by the time we leave, it's probably 10:30, 10:45. So it took us about an hour to call everybody, or call the labor lines, get last minute stuff, getting me in the car because I had to keep stopping. It was a fast hour though. It did not feel like an hour. Then so because it was so late, the regular entrance for the hospital closes at like 9 o'clock. So we had to go through the emergency room, which is fine. But our hospital sucks, and parking at the emergency end is practically non-existent. They were all taken. There were only handicap spots. We were driving around for like 5 minutes. I was like, John, you have to figure this out. This hurts. Like I can't do this in the car. I can't do this anyways, but I can't do this in the car. And so there was 2 people walking out from the emergency room entrance to their car like they were leaving. And they see us waiting for their spot. Like we are sharking them, waiting to pounce on this parking spot. And they get in, just jibber jabbering away, knew that we were waiting for this spot. And so I was in middle of contraction. I was like, John, honk at them. And he was like, Rachel, it's fine. And I kind of yelled at him and I was like, you're not the one in labor, so shut up. But so he just pulled up on like the curb at the front like entrance of like the fountain, and we got out, and I couldn't even get to the front of the emergency room. And one of the guys at the desk had to get a wheelchair and come get me. And I was like, are you in labor? And I was like, yes. And so John moved the car and thought he had time. The nurse came and got me, and because he was getting our stuff too. And she wheeled me up, and they got me all checked in. I couldn't even get my clothes off to put my gown on yet. So they were like, just take your pants off. We'll check you with your clothes on, and you can try and get the gown on later. And so John got up there at that time. They checked me. I was at 4 centimeters dilated, and they didn't, or I think it's in my birth story actually. The baby was at 0 station. Don't know what that means. All the nurse kept saying was, oh my gosh, she's super low. She's right there, which didn't mean anything to me. And so I was laboring. My doula came. She was actually texting my husband and was asking if she had time to like go home. And John was like, I don't think so. I think you need to come. And so she came. They checked me at 11:15. 11. Okay, they checked me at 11. My doula got there around 11:15, 11:30, and they said they were gonna check me again at midnight. So an hour went by. I told her I was having a lot of pressure. I kept having to go to the bathroom, or it felt like I kept having to go to the bathroom. And I'm sorry if I'm saying I'm trying to remember all of this so much, and not everything's on my notes, not everything's in this, so I'm trying to think through this. And then I was laboring on the ball. My doula was rubbing my back, and John was like holding my hand while I was squeezing it. Then they called it the dancing slow dance position. So that means like your husband standing, or your partner. I had my hands around his neck, and I like was kind of doubled over and like swaying back and forth, and my doula was rubbing my back and hips. And I told her I was having a ton of pressure. They checked me again an hour later, and I was 7 centimeters dilated, and I was 7 centimeters dilated, and the baby was even lower. And so I tried, after they checked, I tried to labor on all fours on the bed. That kind of helped for a little bit, but the contractions started getting very strong, and I don't even want to say painful, and I'll explain that in a second, but they weren't that painful. It was the pressure was out of this world. Kept thinking I had to go to the bathroom, and they were scared for me to go to the bathroom. They were like, maybe not. They were kind of scared I was gonna have this baby in the toilet, I'm not gonna lie. And I had asked if they could get a bath running, because that sounded super nice, and I've heard that it kind of helps. It doesn't take the pain away, but it helps with like the pressure and the pressure of the contractions. So they started running it for me, but I did have, when I got in, they checked my heart rate, they checked hers, and then within 15-30 minutes, her heart rate spiked, and it was staying up. And they told me they didn't want me to get in the bath until she had been down at a normal rate for at least 20 minutes. So, because the heat from the bath can make her temperature rise and make her heart rate rise. So they didn't want me to do that. And so I was waiting. I kept asking if I could get in, and they kept saying we need to wait. And then they checked me, and I was a 7, and they said you're too far along to get in there now. If you do, this baby's probably gonna come, because it does relax everything, and sometimes it just it happens. And so they were like, no. And then so they checked me at midnight. I was super nauseous and super pushy. Like I was like, I have to push. So they checked me again at 12:40. So within 40 minutes, I was at 10 centimeters or 9 centimeters, and the baby was at a +1 station. Again, don't know what that means. And then within 10 minutes, because again, the pressure was so bad, they checked again, and I was at 10 centimeters. So I was ready to push, and I couldn't stop. They kept saying, when I was at 9, I was like, I need to push, and they said don't, because it's gonna hurt it can damage everything if you're pushing when you're not 10 centimeters dilated. But when I tell you, the urge to push goes beyond yourself. And when I say, if you've had a baby, especially if you've had one without an epidural, you know what I mean. You're trying everything not to. And I was telling John, I was like, I wasn't even pushing, my body was doing it. Like I could not stop it. I could not, like someone could offer me $1 million and I could not have stopped it. It was awful. It was the worst thing. And so they explained to me how to push, hold your breath, go for 10 counts, breathe in, go for 10 counts, breathe in, go for 10 counts. And so did that. It took me 45 minutes to push, and then she was born. She was born at 1:45. So just to recap, my water broke at 9:30, 9:45ish. Got to the hospital around 10:45, and I had her at 1:45. So from my water breaking to her being here, I had a 4-hour labor. Crazy. My mother-in-law was supposed to be in the room. She didn't make it because she lives in my hometown, which is 2.5, 3 hours away, and she didn't leave right away when my water broke, and so she did not make it. She got here at like 2:15, and so she was like 15 minutes, half an hour late. She was so upset, but honestly, she felt so bad too, and I was like, there's nothing you could have done because this baby was coming. And so my delivery was super fast. Again, the contractions were not that painful. Maybe I don't want to brag, and I'm not bragging in any way whatsoever, just because mine was fast and I didn't have an epidural. does not mean anybody else's experience makes them less of a mother. My sister-in-law said, wow, your labor, you did not have an epidural your first time, you're stronger than I am. And I said, hey, that is not true. I don't like telling people about it because I feel like they think either I'm bragging or that they're less than I am, and I don't feel that way at all. Everybody is different, everybody's labor is different. I think women who have super long labors are way stronger than I am, because can you imagine laboring for 24, 36 hours, even 12 hours? That is so long. Like I cannot imagine having to do that at all. And I did ask for the epidural just to say I did, just because I was like, it was bad. And again, the contractions weren't bad. It was the pressure of needing to push and not being able to that was out of this world. I don't wish that on anybody, because trying to hold back is what was hard. So whatever. But yeah, and so I think I asked for it, and they were like, you're 9 centimeters dilated, you're not getting this epidural. So I did ask for it at least, but my getting her here wasn't bad. I did have a 2nd degree tear, which I'm not entirely sure all the degrees. I did not tear to my rectum, so that's good. They did have to stitch me up, and I didn't have an episiotomy. I wanted to tear naturally, so I did that. And if you've watched any of my pregnancy updates, I mentioned that what I was scared for most was tearing. Honestly, it wasn't bad. There's so much pressure from her crowning and their shoulders that you don't feel it. At least I didn't know I tore. I asked after she had been born. He said, yeah, you had a 2nd degree. I'm stitching up in a little bit, after they gave me a shot to numb me. So, I mean, maybe that's not everybody's experience. Maybe they did feel themselves tear. You do feel, the best way I've described, or I've heard it described, is, and this is not the accurate name for it, and I know that, but I don't know if there's another name for it, but so don't hate me, but in school, in like grade school, when you would twist someone's arm, like twist it like this, both different directions, it was called an Indian rug burn, I think, something like that. That's what it kind of felt like. It just felt like a burning, stretching sensation. Again, didn't know I tore, so that is just something to keep in mind. But after she came was when things kind of got a little scary. John and I didn't really know how scary it was until they told us it, until they explained it to us a little bit. I did hemorrhage after birth. I think I have on here. I asked how much normal blood loss is with a normal delivery, and they said 200 to 250 cc's. I lost 750. I was a hairbreadth away from having to get a blood transfusion. And John saw a ton of blood, and he was kind of freaked out, but he also didn't know how much was normal, and so he wasn't like, oh my gosh. But after we found out, we were both kind of like, that's kind of scary. Like, that's the only way most women die in childbirth anymore, is from hemorrhaging, and they can't stop it. So that was kind of scary. They had to give me 3 shots in my legs of what was it called? A Pitocin. Yeah, a Pitocin, to get my uterus to start contracting and going down, so I could get all the blood out, because they were massaging my uterus and it was not going down. And then they gave me a Cytotec suppository to also help with that, and it finally started to work. I delivered my placenta within 10 to 15 minutes. It was fast coming out. I guess, I'm not sure, but they did say that he was trying to push it out and was pulling and pulling, and it wasn't coming. So, but it finally came out. But the hemorrhaging was really scary. And then pushing on my uterus to get it to contract down to size, so they could get all the blood out again and all the clots. And he was using so much gauze, he kept asking the nurse to get more gauze, and it was kind of terrifying at that point. I did do skin to skin with her immediately, but I had to give her to the nurse, because usually they give you about an hour before they do any of the tests, before they do the APGAR, before they do their first bath, anything like that, so they can give you a chance to bond. And I wanted to do that, but through the pushing on my uterus, I could not hold her because it was so painful. Honestly, that was more painful than contractions for me. And so I gave her to the nurse. I had drunk over there and watched her, and I just kind of, my doula was holding my hand while they were pushing on my stomach. So, and then after, they came back every 10 minutes to keep pushing on to make sure it was going down. So it was awful. So they did that, stitched me up, and Rory was 7 pounds 2 ounces and was 19 3/4 of an inch. So she was adorable. She was perfect. John, actually, a funny story really fast. John didn't know that babies kind of get cone heads when they're coming out so they can fit through the birth canal. That's why they have soft spots. So when she came out, she had a cone head, obviously, because every baby does. And he was kind of freaked out and he thought that she was deformed. And it was kind of like, oh my God. And then he was like, but nobody was freaking. He didn't tell me this right at the door when it was happening. He told me like the next day. He was like, none of the doctors were freaking out. And so I just figured it was normal. Or he's like, I kind of figured it out. And I was like, yeah, that's why they put hats on their heads, because their heads look creepy. But I did get some pain medicine after she was born to help with the pushing on my stomach, because again, it was so bad. I don't know if that's everybody's experience, if they've hemorrhaged or not, when they push on your uterus to get it to contract down to size, if it was super painful for you. But that was way more worse that was worse for me than contractions. So let me see if I have anything on my phone now. Okay, yeah. So right after they were done pushing on me, I kind of took, like, I kind of tried to measure how I was feeling, if anything was off, so I could let you guys know, because I wanted to know everything about anybody's birth when I was looking at these. But my throat hurt really bad from kind of screaming and groaning through the contractions. Again, not because they were super painful contractions, but it was really the only way I could work through the pressure of them, was groaning. Super awkward. And it wasn't really screaming, it was mainly just that, way louder and way deeper. Didn't really know I could make that noise, but you know what, it's kind of a primal instinct. Some people do it, some people don't, but I definitely did it. And then I threw up after I gave birth because of the pushing, and I think I threw up once during, maybe. Oh man, I can't remember. Yeah, but I did throw up a few times, and so my throat hurt from that and from the screaming. I was so tired. I mean, everybody's tired, but I asked the nurse, I was like, is it normal to be this tired? And she was like, 1, you're coming down from a lot of hormones and a lot of adrenaline. 2, you just went through labor. 3, you did get some pain meds that make you sleepy, and you also lost a ton of blood. So yes, for you, it is 100% normal to feel this tired. I was kind of scared to hold her because I was scared I was going to drop her, because I was so tired. I was so out of it. I couldn't even talk to anybody. It was the most extreme level of exhaustion I've ever had in my entire life. And I've had mono before, and I've been on anesthesia and like come back from that, and nothing compared to that exhaustion level. I was super shaky after I delivered her from the adrenaline. Like, my body was shaking, and a good thing I wasn't holding her and the nurse had her at that point, because I probably would have dropped her. And then her blood type is A negative, so I did not have to get the second RhoGAM shot, so that's great. And then I did get a fever while I was there, which almost made us have to stay another day, and the blood loss, because they didn't know if I had an infection. They tested me for endometritis. I didn't have it. It took forever to find out if I had it or not. I did have to have antibiotics to make sure that there was an infection, because they didn't want to wait until they found out to try and kill it off. So I had 2 doses of an antibiotic every 8 hours for 24 hours. That was really hard. I did have the IV port. I don't know if that's what it's called, but whatever. I had it put in when I got there, but I didn't have to be hooked up to IVs or anything until after, which I'm glad I got it when I did. But they had to redo it because they have to flush out your vein with like sodium, like the water, the fluids that they have. I don't know what it's called. And then they give you the antibiotic, and then I think they would wait half an hour, and then they gave me the other dose, and then again every 8 hours. And so I even have a scar now because of how bad it was. It completely tore up my vein. It started hurting, and they said that's not normal, so they had to take it out and they had to redo it. They tried on this arm, could not find a vein, finally got on this arm, and it felt better. I mean, it hurts getting one, but it was so bad by the end of the dosing that I had to have them redo it because I could not deal with the pain. And so I did have a ton of antibiotics while I was there to kill it off again. And then on the day we got released, the doctor came in to talk to me because they have them talk to you, and they have the pediatrician come check on the baby before you're actually released, before they sign the papers. And he said, and I asked him, I said, why did this happen? He had no clue. He said that while my placenta took a little bit and kind of took a little coaxing to get out, it wasn't that as hard as he's had before. He said, I'm young, my delivery was fast, I didn't have an epidural, there's no excuse as to why I hemorrhaged. And he said, make sure that if whoever your doctor is now, if they aren't your doctor for your next kid, to make sure to tell them that happened so they can have all the medicine ready to stop the hemorrhaging when you're delivering. So he said that, again, he said you're super close from needing a transfusion, so you got really lucky. And he said to take it slow. Again, I was walking around by the last day for sure, but I was so tired and like lethargic, and I was getting really out of breath because of the blood loss. So I am having to keep up with my iron supplement that I had to take during my pregnancy. I'm not taking it twice a day though, I'm only taking it once, and that's been helping. So overall, it was a great experience. The beginning, I guess, but I also know that, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I'm so out of it, you guys. I just feel very lucky. I know that, and again, this is not me bragging what I'm about to say. This is just, I think it's a good practice to tell yourself that you're doing amazing, and especially when everybody else is, just to admit it and be like, yeah, you know what? I'm pretty awesome. And so I told John that in the hospital. I was like, I'm not bragging at all, and I don't think any mom is any less of a mom because she had an epidural or however her birth went. I was like, but I am very proud of myself for doing this. And without an epidural, that was at the top of my list for my delivery. I really want to be able to do it naturally and experience every feeling with her coming out of me and birthing her and getting her into this world. And I was so happy that I was able to do it. And now going through labor, I feel like I can honestly like get shot and it won't even hurt that bad because I've gone through childbirth. That is super irrational, and I know that's not how it works, but I just feel like I could do anything now at this point. Epidural, no epidural, C-section, vaginally, all of it. I feel like any mom that's gone through this can just say that they killed it. They killed the game. They're a strong woman, and they deserve everything in the world. So yeah, but I know everybody probably wants to meet her, so I will go get her. I don't want to wake her up, but I'll do it for you guys. Okay guys, this is little Miss Rory Grace Pachoon. She has a ton of hair, you can't tell. That is all that the doctors were saying when she was when she was coming out, was she had a ton of hair. And I believed them, but I didn't really care. And when she came out, I mean, she had a ton of hair and it's dark, but it was wet, obviously, from all the fluid and stuff. But then when we gave her first bath, it gets really puffy. She got a bath last night. It's super fluffy. It's even a little flatter now from sleeping. But she has a ton of hair. I was born with black hair, so it was kind of coming, and so was John. So She has beautiful head of hair, and she is just the cutest little thing. I love you. Can you say hi to everybody? No? You want to sleep? She is just the cutest. I'll try and get her closer. I'm trying not to have to unswaddle her. But she is just so sweet. You know, there is nothing like this at all. Everybody told me that before I had her, and I mean, I obviously believe them, but it's just something you don't understand until it's happened to you. Priorities shift, everything just changes in your mindset, and it's just like a complete 180. It's the oddest thing, but the most amazing thing. And even the level of exhaustion that you have, and ours has been extremely difficult, and that will be explained in my breastfeeding journey and part of my postpartum update. But you just see their face, and it's the cutest thing ever, and you just kind of forget about the exhaustion. You just kind of work through it, and you just figure it out, and it's amazing. So she's adorable. If you want to see more pictures, I will insert some now. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, make sure you subscribe, and I will be back in the next few days with another video. Bye guys.